Hello, my name is Chris, and today I'd like to talk about capacity. About our capacity to cope with the events and situations and circumstances of our lives. The small things, finances, work, relationships, looking after a home, the big things, sickness, losing a job, losing a partner, moving home, a myriad of different things, and our capacity to cope with them without feeling so overwhelmed that we think we can't do any more, and without feeling so overwhelmed that we basically say, F this, I'm going to plunge into some kind of self-sabotaging behaviour. F this, I'm going to smoke or drink or do something that is actually going to make it even worse for me in the long run. I'd like to talk about why this capacity is fluid and ever evolving, expanding and contracting depending on a myriad of influences going on around us. And I'd also like to talk about why our capacity is a very individual and personal thing. So my capacity right now may not be the same as yours. Right now you may have much more capacity to cope than I do. Next week I may have much more capacity to cope than you do, and that's okay. And I want to talk about why all of this matters in terms of our self-worth and self-compassion, and in terms of acceptance and being able to get on with things. Before I do, there are two very quick things that I'd just like to tell you about. The first one is that if you missed the video I posted about 2 weeks ago now about my one-to-one quit smoking support program, then I'll put a link to that up in the card above, down in the description below. If you'd like to know more about working with me on a one-to-one basis, you can check that video out, or email me at chris@cjstherapy.com. The other thing, more importantly, you know how much I look forward to our end of month live stream hangouts. The next one is Saturday, October 30th at 6:30 p.m. UK time. I'll put a link in the description below and the card at the end of the video, because I'm aware I've just done a card just a second ago. So that's on the 30th. I would love to come and spend some time chatting with you if you'd like to come and hang out with me. But for now, let's get into this video and talk about capacity. When I use this word capacity, I think what I'm really getting at is our levels of especially mental and emotional energy, but also to some degree our physical energy as well. And the amount of energy that we have to be able to cope with what's going on in our lives. You know, a stressful day at work, paying the bills, getting stuck in traffic. But then also, like I said, those big things, relationships ending, sick parents, sick children, losing a job, all of those things. And how do we cope with that? And how do we, and when I say cope with it, I mean cope with it in a way that, you know, without having to self-sabotage, without having to smoke, drink, or cause any further problems for ourselves. This capacity that we have is constantly expanding and contracting depending on what else is going on that is either draining our energy levels or pushing them up into a higher level. You know, 1 week it might be got stuck in traffic. My boss was an absolute arsehole to me. I had an unexpected bill that came, my house was a mess. There's all these things, and because those are the four things that are going on for me, and they're stressful, but they are also manageable, I've got enough capacity to cope with those things without feeling like, you know, I might feel like, oh my goodness, that was a tough week. I dealt with a lot there. But I dealt with it, it did not deal with me. Because my capacity, I had enough capacity left in my tank, or in my capacity box, or whatever you want to call it. Let's call it a capacity tank, because that's just came to me and that sounds good. I had enough capacity left in my tank to be able to deal with all that. The following week, exactly the same stuff happens. I have a stressful day at work, my boss is an arsehole, I get stuck in traffic, my house is a mess. Only this week, something else happens. My phone breaks. Pluck something out of thin air, because my phone keeps breaking at the minute, so it's a good example. My phone breaks. Now, on a normal week, if I didn't have these other 4 things and the only thing I had was my phone breaking, I'd have so much capacity to be able to deal with my phone breaking. But because I've got, you know, whatever I just said about my boss being a dick and all this stuff, sorry for swearing, all this, you know, my boss being an arsehole and being stuck in traffic, because I've already got that filling up my tank, all it takes is this one thing, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't seem that huge, my phone breaking. All of a sudden this becomes a major ordeal. This becomes, oh my God, I can't cope with this. This is too much. I'm so overwhelmed. My capacity is full. I need to go and drink or smoke or just do something because I've had enough. And I've referred to this concept of a capacity tank. And I think what's really, really important to remember is this capacity tank is not fixed. It is not, okay, I've got a capacity tank and it's this big and this big. And so that means that whatever else is going on in my life, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what my physical, emotional, mental state may be at the time, this is my capacity tank. And if anything, I can take on this much crap in my life and anything else is just going to send me over the edge. My tank is going to overflow. I don't believe that to be true. I believe our capacity tank expands sometimes and it contracts sometimes. Sometimes it might be a weird shape, all depending on what is going on and whether those other things are draining our mental, emotional, physical energy or raising them up. And I think this is so important. It's important to remember because when I recognize that my current capacity is not the same as it was 6 months ago or even 6 days ago, that tells me that actually I may be able to cope with more than I think I can right now. I may be able to do things that I previously thought I wasn't capable of doing. Sometimes I'll speak to people or I'll see comments on my YouTube channels and they say, I just can't quit smoking. I just can't. And I wonder sometimes if what they mean is I tried and it was an unsuccessful quit. And that has taught me that I can't do it. What that has taught you was that that quit attempt, you did not have enough capacity to deal with it. Or what it tells you is that that attempt may not have been quite prepared or ready or whatever it means. It certainly doesn't tell you that you can't do it again in the future because that capacity is going to be so different. You know, let's use another example. Let's go back to the idea of, you know, the boss being an arsehole. So we have this one, I don't know why I'm so fixated on bosses today, but say we have this one incident where we have our monthly performance review with our boss and he's an absolute, I'm going to use the word dick again, I'm sorry. Our boss is an absolute dick and it really stresses us out, it makes us upset, and then we go home and we think, oh my God, and we spend the next month going, I don't have the capacity to cope with my monthly performance review. Not recognizing that on that day when we had that review, we also had like 10 different other things going on for us that filled our capacity and meant we didn't have enough mental and emotional energy to deal with that arsehole of a boss without feeling like, that's it, I'm done, I'm full. So the next time we have our monthly performance review, there's less going on for us. The boss is still an arsehole. It's still upsetting, therefore it still drains some of our capacity, still drains some of our mental and emotional energy, but not so much that that we're incapable of coping with it. But I don't just think it's the actual events and circumstances that influence our capacity, that influence our mental, emotional, physical energy. I think it's so much more. a lot of basic stuff like sleeping right and eating right. If I am exhausted, I just don't have the capacity to deal with the shit that's going on. I might get it done, but I'm going to get it done nowhere near as well, and I'm going to feel nowhere near as bothered by it if I actually have had a good night's sleep and I'm feeling well rested. You know, if I'm hungry or I've been eating like shit and like, I'm swearing so much in this video, I do apologise. I'm feeling really bad, and you know, that's going to impact my ability to cope, which is why it's so important for us to take care of ourselves. You know, and sometimes I take care of myself better than other times, but I have to be mindful if I am not sleeping enough, eating right, if I am not taking time out to empty my own capacity tank and, you know, and de-stress a little bit, then I'm not going to be able to cope with things. And I also think that mindset plays such a huge part, that mindset can seriously influence our capacity and our energy levels. For this, I'm going to use the example of moving house. Two people move house, and in moving house they both experience the exact same challenges, obstacles, things going wrong. They experience the exact same stresses, the exact same stressful situations. Person one doesn't really want to move. They kind of liked where they lived. It was good, they were happy there, but something happened and they were forced to move house. So they're looking at this as, oh my goodness, this is a chore, this is an ordeal. Therefore, every stressful thing that comes along the way, every challenge, every obstacle, is adding to a level of stress that is already there. And eventually they're not going to be able to cope with it as well, because their capacity is going to be filled up in no time. Their capacity tank, if you will, is already pretty much up here with, fuck, I've got to move house. So anything else is just going to go, now I can't cope, now I'm overwhelmed, now I'm feeling sad and depressed and like I want to self-sabotage. Meanwhile, person two, remember, experiencing the exact same problems, so excited about moving house. It's a beautiful house, it's a beautiful fresh start, it's all of these positive things. They're starting the exact same journey with they're at the capacity tank way down here. So they got so much more capacity to cope with when things don't go right. It's not to say that when things don't go right it isn't stressful, but it's just not pushing them over the edge, if you will. And it's, you know, I'm comparing these two people, and I think that's right to do so, because I think one of the most important things I want to say is that everybody's capacity at any given moment in time is different. Like I said in the introduction, today you may have all the capacity in the world to go out and absolutely crush life. I may not have very much, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're better than me, or that, you know, I'm a crap person, or I'm just never going to be able to cope. It means right now at this moment my capacity is at a different level to you. And that's so important, I think, when it comes to acceptance and when it comes to self-worth, and recognizing that my problems, my challenges, my stresses are valid, and they're every bit as valid in my life as somebody else's problems are in their life, even if that person's problems seem on the outside to be so much bigger. And I can give you an example from my own life in this. So a week or so back, started the week with, you know, my capacity tank relatively empty. I had lots of, you know, ability to cope. Things were going well, and then they started going not so well. I had a lot of clients cancel or rearrange, and I just couldn't tell whether I was coming or going or what I was supposed to be doing with work. and it all quickly piled up and piled up. And I reached a point on the Friday that I was just like, shit, I am at full capacity right now. This is my limit. For now, this is as much as I can take. And I phoned a friend of mine, and her problems are like, if I stood there and I said, okay, you can have her problems or you can have my problems, you would take my problems all day, every day, because they seem so much less intense, so much less severe. But my little problems had filled my capacity tank for that day. She was dealing with stuff that was way bigger than what I was dealing with and absolutely crushing it, just flooring it. And at no point did I feel or say, oh, but my problems are insignificant compared to yours, or I shouldn't be telling you about this because you've got all this going on. No, this is what's valid and important for me right now at this moment. And yeah, we can compare problems all day long. Mine are insignificant compared to hers, but then if she compared her problems to, I don't know, a homeless person or somebody fighting in the middle of a war, you go, oh, well, her problems are not that big of a deal either. And we could keep going like that. Meanwhile, somebody else may be looking at my problems and going, well, Chris, at least I don't have as much as you to deal with. Whatever we are facing in our life is valid at that time. If we are struggling to quit smoking and somebody else is absolutely crushing their quit, that's okay. That doesn't mean they're better or we're worse, or that we can't do it, or that there's something wrong with us. It means right now I don't have the capacity to do this. I think one other thing that seems important to talk about is, once we recognise that we're all at full capacity, not just recognise it and going, I'm at full capacity and I don't know what to do, about actually going, okay, like I said, acting with self-compassion and self-kindness and going, I recognise right now that I am at full capacity. I'm aware that as I've been talking through this, the kind of metaphors or analogies I've been using are kind of contradictory, because I'm talking about being at full capacity but being completely drained at the same time. I maybe could have thought that through, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about. It's about, when we recognise, oh my goodness, I have no mental, emotional, physical energy left to deal with this problem. Going, okay, well, that means it's time for me to take a step back. It's time for me to park these problems and take care of myself. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be able to deal with them, at least not as well. If we went, okay, I'm at full capacity, this is too much for me to cope with, but I'm just going to carry on anyway because what choice do I have? It's like trying to drive a car on an empty tank. The thing is right there, there's like nothing left, and the car's going to move, but at any moment it's just going to completely give out. It's probably not healthy for the car either. Even before, that's the same thing. Even before it conks out, it's probably going to do long-term damage to the car and then conk out, and then we'll have no choice but to refuel, which hopefully most of us don't do. We refuel as we go along. We recognise, okay, my energy levels are not that great. It's time for me to get them back up. Get the energy levels back up and drain the tank. Again, I wish I'd thought this through a little better. So for me, when I phoned my friend, I said, look, I'm at full capacity right now. I've got to do something different. Went for a walk, spent time with a friend, just hung out for a bit, just chilled out, allowed my energy levels to resurface. This week, I could have had the exact same week and I would have handled it so much better because, I've been taking care of myself. What you've got from me today in this video is kind of thinking out loud about something that's been in my mind for a while. Something that I may need to polish, but I hope it makes sense to you in some way. I hope it resonates, or at least gives you something to think about. This idea that just because at one time I didn't have the capacity to deal with something, just because at one time I wasn't capable of quitting smoking, doesn't mean I can't again. Doesn't mean that, you know, I can't do it because my friend's doing a great job and I'm not, and that means I'm doing it wrong, because it doesn't. You know, and recognizing, okay, I'm getting up there, my capacity's getting pretty full, it's time to do something about that. Whew. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope this is, you know, at least kept you occupied for a little bit of time. As I said at the beginning, the next monthly live stream Hangouts is Saturday, October 30th, 6:30 p.m. UK time. There is a link in the description below and the card above. And again, if you'd like to work with me, the one-to-one support sessions are available. 2 more things to tell you about. There's this, of course. It is called Quit Smoking and Be Happy. It is my book. If you enjoy the kind of content that I put out on YouTube, you will most likely enjoy this book too. And of course, our wonderful Quit Smoking support group on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/findingfreedom1. And we're done. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.